Growth hack your brand and then destroy anything that moves.
You need to grind hustle your platform manifest.
It's all about entropy, elegance, and finance. Blockchain.
Invest in real estate every day.
Invest in meal estate every morning.
You need to mind hack the mind shackles that are grabbing your mind. Entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneur. Teach a man to fish and he'll eat for a day. Eat the man who just fished and you'll eat for a lifetime.
Spartans!
Business.
Money hacks. What was that?
That was the new intro I produced.
So you reversed it.
Yeah, it's been reversed now. I figure that's the compromise, you know?
That's not a compromise at all. We need to just get rid of it. It doesn't make any sense.
You know, the past 10 episodes it's been playing, so I feel like we got to keep it in now.
I wish it hadn't been. I've demanded that it go away each episode.
You did? I never noticed.
I thought it was just like a totally different sound quality with that.
It's completely different and even worse. Somehow even worse. It sounds, I don't know what. It sounds like some sort of demonic summoning at the beginning of our podcast now.
Summoning demons, that's a sign of strength. That's a sign of power.
What are you talking about? This is a podcast about how to be better at business. I mean, we need some sort of, I don't know, quality control on this, because I remember a couple weeks ago we were talking about half monkey, half fish or something.
I think we're at a bit of a disagreement here.
You can start whatever podcast you want called Magic and Demons and Monkey Fish. Feel free. I will have no part in it.
Well, welcome to Business Money Hacks, I guess. My name is Dustin Taylor Hahn.
And I'm Bridge Stewart. Today, we are going to be discussing lawsuits, challenging either a corporation or a person.
You want to make sure that you have lawyers around you that you trust.
I have a lawyer named Mr. Smith. I don't know his first name. And he sort of reminds me of like a snake. Like the way he walks around, and I wouldn't even say walk. It's more like he slithers around. And I think that's an important quality I like to have in my legal team, is just a very snake-like presence.
I remember when you were suing the Guatemalan children, Mr. Snake looked at the jury. They seemed to be sort of hypnotized.
He hissed at him. It was, that's a move I haven't seen in a courtroom ever. And I was very impressed.
He hissed at the jury and then he spat at the judge.
That's a lawyer you want. But in the broader sense of what we're talking about, what happens with a lawsuit is you instigate change. Things can get too comfortable in a corporate situation. Sometimes you need to stir the pot, shake up the pond in a sense. I know one of my vendors, he was coding for an app that I was creating. And things were going very well with him, and I didn't like that because I don't trust it. You know, they say a stagnant pond starts to rot. And so I hired a man to show up at his office with a machete. He starts calling me up. He's like, there's a man outside my business screaming at me. That's when I knew I had the upper hand.
I own a wing of a hospital, and everything was going well, but I decided, what happens if the power goes out? You know, you have to make sure that the surgeons, the doctors, the nurses are prepared for that. So what better way to prepare them than to shutting the power off during surgery?
That would keep them very much on their toes, I would imagine. When you think about it, 80 years ago, we didn't even have electricity. And these doctors, they've got it pretty cushy. They're living high off the horse here. They're living off the fat of the land. You're keeping them on their toes.
That's right. Let's bring in our guest here, because he's been sitting here looking at me with a snake-like stare.
That's good.
I'm frightened, so he's clearly been in a courtroom before. I could tell. So Kevin, what was it?
McClellin. Kevin McClellin.
McClellin.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Now you two met in a courtyard of a courtroom.
Yeah. It was a courtyard Marriott, actually. But anyways, no, Bridge and I know each other quite well. And I would say that I've made my money in ways that some would consider unorthodox. If you've read my book, Money, have either of you read the book?
No.
Is that green one?
It had a green cover.
No, I haven't.
All right, well, the essence of what I do is sort of revolutionizing what we consider a lawsuit and what a lawsuit means. What's the value of actually taking someone to court? And this is how I've made most of my money. You may remember there's a woman who in the 90s, she spilled McDonald's soup on herself.
I remember. And she burned herself.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
No, and she's worth literally billions of dollars.
Really?
For the, oh, yeah. You look at the McDonald's arch, always says 16 billion burgers sold.
That's right.
And she could about say the same for money made off of a McDonald's burn.
From one lawsuit.
Well,
or was this multiple lawsuits over time?
Was it multiple, Bridge?
I think it was multiple.
Okay.
I think she sued for each burn.
Yep.
She burned one leg. She sued for about, I'd say, half a B for that. And then she burned the other leg, another half B.
Yep.
So now she's a billionaire.
Now, I remember reading an article in the late 90s. She tried the same thing with Burger King, and they didn't want any part of it.
They don't mess around. No.
But those Burger King kids, they grew up.
Yeah.
They're no longer kids.
Well, I've always said if you're going to hit a corporation, make it McDonald's. What's the other one? Popeyes is vulnerable. Their corporate structure is very vulnerable. They're weak.
So have you sued Popeyes or have you sued McDonald's?
Well, you know what? I try to spread it out, and it's not just the fast food industry. If you read my book, please, and if you can,
I like the fact that it's green. I don't like to read anymore.
Right.
I don't.
There's
generally
an audio book as well.
Okay.
But
Do you narrate the audiobook?
I do half of it. I just brought in an actor to do the rest.
Who did you bring in?
Oh, it's just some guy at Craigslist.
Oh, okay. That's a smart move.
Well, I saved money, and with that money, I bought myself a nice meal. So,
hope it was Popeyes.
I do like, and I want to be clear because they may be listening.
Hold on, watch out for the.
Of course,
for the hand.
What am I doing?
I just want to make sure that you're not bumping the microphone.
Was I bumping the microphone?
I don't know.
Was I bumping them?
I don't know. I didn't see where the hand placement was, but you might have bumped the microphone.
The thing is, I'm hard of hearing. I'm also hard of vision. So when I see movement, I'm kind of like a rhinoceros, where I can only look forward. Right. So if something's going on in the peripheral, and I was looking at Bridge at the time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Anyway.
in any case, I just sort of want to make my theories clear. And that is, and there's a law in this country, and this is actually not very well known. It's an absolute fact. The ignorance of morality law. Meaning, if you're not aware or seem to not be aware of something being wrong, you can do whatever you want. You can essentially get away with anything if you don't know you're being, kind of a jerk about it. And so I can go about, if I want to claim that, a Walmart employee brutally assaulted me, regardless of whether it's true or not, as long as I'm not really clear whether this is a shitty thing for me to claim, it's fine. It's completely fine.
To be able to do essentially what you want and say, well, I didn't know. I think that's an incredible way to deal with any sort of business, really.
That's exactly it. That's it in a nutshell. And I'm happy to say I have had so many lawsuits that I should not have won. Sued good people, good honest people. There is a woman, I've made millions off of her. She runs a bed and breakfast in Sweden. I said I found a nail in a pancake. I've never been to Sweden. I've never had pancakes. And the woman is completely broke.
How did you prove that you were there?
I have a sort of a bump in my throat, like a birthmark. Well, it looks like it could have easily been from an ingested nail. Wow. And once I showed that, and I actually went to liberal arts school, and I was a theater studies major, not acting major, but I audited some acting classes, so I can do tears on command. And in the courtroom, I said, "You slimy, ignorant jurors, take a look at this scar."
I like that you insulted the jurers first. You started
and then claimed a medical injury.
But this comes back to something we were saying earlier. Keep them on their toes. They're expecting you to cater to them, insult them, make them feel guilty themselves for some of their own misjudgments, and you're going to get yourself, a few mil, or if it's McDonald's,
half a bill.
Half a
I think it's a very interesting concept. Here you have this woman. She went after McDonald's. Mm-hmm. That's a whale. by every definition of the word. McDonald's is probably one of the biggest blue whales you could have. I think it's an interesting idea also to go after these sort of small boutique shops, like the mom and pop kind of shops. They're not used to this sort of thing. Chances are they've got kids. They got to worry about a family. So you can sort of you're not going for the whale, but you're getting these small little fish. And those fish, after you gather up enough of them,
right,
you make some good money.
And let me just say this. Many people listening to this very podcast would call us frauds. What I want to say to you, take the recent Fire Festival documentaries. Are you, gentlemen, aware of this? Billy McFarland, who created the Fire Festival, considered one of the biggest frauds in the world. Guess what? Joke's on us. Joke's on the audience. That man has made literally $2 billion off those documentaries. The whole time he was just doing it for the documentary play. It's one of the top 3 industries.
Now that's a long game.
You're saying that he started the Fire Festival so that they can make a documentary.
It is known that the documentary industry is massively, massively profitable.
Big doc, yeah.
Big doc. I'm so impressed by such a long game. It's like he's some sort of chess master.
Oh, yeah.
Because, he went to prison. He's willing to do time. I mean, I would do time for 2B. And the notoriety he has gained, I would absolutely do business with that man. And I'm sure every CEO in the United States would want to do business with that man after...
You're an idiot if you don't.
Being involved in so many lawsuits, such as yourself, I know, at least in my experience, I enjoy the thrill.
Well, you are literally ruining people's lives, but the feeling of ruining someone's life in a way that is just going to make you so much makes that worth it. And I would believe that the people whose lives you've just ruined would agree with that. The amount we're making off them, they should be proud of us.
The way they act in the courtroom, especially, these mom and pop places, they're like, oh no, my kid's college fund is going away. They're liking it.
Everyone likes the drama, no matter what side you're on.
If you go through life without a courtroom artist rendering, what was the point?
You're never going to get that high again. Once you're out of that lawsuit and you got nothing left, guess what? The best time of your life was that lawsuit that you just got out of. So stop whining.
Yeah, it's almost like, I hear a lot of these new age sort of discussions. Oh, I'm meeting a shaman in South America and taking ayahuasca. Get involved in a civil litigation. Like that's something that's really gonna expand your mind on many things.
Do something. Get sued.
Start suing.
I'll just tell you, oftentimes these judges and lawyers, they're just sitting around waiting for a case to come. The American courts, they're empty.
They just sit around all day. They're watching. Honestly, they're watching television that involves lawyers. They're wishing they were back in the courtroom. I mean,
I don't know if you've seen this, but there are television shows
about
judges.
Judy, yeah.
It's really
entertaining shows.
It's a very sad sight to see when a lawyer is taken out to pasture when they're not doing anything. You start to see it in them. They start to have a mental crumble. You can see it behind their eyes. I hate to use the metaphor of they're leeches. But if they aren't getting that blood, if they're not sucking that blood, they're going to shrivel up and die, and they need that blood. And I think a leech is a beautiful animal.
I've never seen one. What do they look like?
It's kind of like a roly-poly. It's like a small roly-poly. Erwin my lawyer looks like a roly-poly himself. He's a short, fuzzy man.
He's sort of slippery. I think he oils himself.
He's jittery
up
and he's
morning.
slippery. Yeah. He's always sweating.
I like that. I like that in a lawyer.
You want your lawyer to
just pouring sweat in the courtroom. I think that's a very good sign.
Exactly, and the judge will respect that and say, "Oh, this guy's working hard.
Right.
Well, let's give him the win.
Give him the win." And sometimes the judge can overrule the jury's decision, and if he doesn't like it, you better please the judge.
And we need to get rid of these juries because it just complicates.
You watch those shows. You mentioned Judge Judy. Mm-hmm. Do you see juries? She is the judge, the executioner, the other thing. She is all three. They didn't need a juror for that show, and that's why it's the #1 show in America. Is we realize that this jury system's completely unnecessary.
It's outrageous, the fact that we have juries in the United States. We need just one person to cut to the chase, tell it how it is, and Judy's not afraid to do that.
Nope.
One topic I would like to bring up is also the fact that that McDonald's case, it happened in the 90s.
Yeah.
90s business was booming. Big Lawyer was thriving. The fact that lawsuits aren't happening as much as they were, has that been affecting your business?
In a way, it has. You got these young gunning judges who, as soon as you start spinning a yarn, spinning a tale, they sniff you out. There are other forms of what some would call deception. There's my college professor, again, I was a theater studies major. He was a theater professor. He said that good artists borrow, great artists steal. And I stole all his shit. Yeah. Well,
like his thoughts or his...
No, I robbed his house. His whole statement, I in a sense...
He must have been very proud. Yeah.
How's he doing now?
So he's homeless.
He's homeless.
So let me ask you something, Kevin. Have you ever any thoughts of turning your green book into a documentary?
I know very little about the film industry. I know very little about cameras. I have an iPhone with a camera. If I could use that to make the document, I'd consider it if that were an option, and maybe it is. At this point, I need editors. I'm sure you gentlemen yourself might have experience in that, considering you have a podcast. I don't know if you could also put together a film.
The issue is that it costs money for these editors, and that means less meals.
Yeah.
So you can't invest as much money in meals when you have to pay for an editor. Going back to this concept of these millennials have no idea. They've never been to court.
I'd like to sue them for that. As American citizens, we have a duty.
I'm not an American citizen.
Oh, really?
Before you, no.
Oh, what did it? Well, because
I'm not a citizen to any country at all at this point. I'm creating my own country. So I threw out my passport. I threw it on the ground, and then I just flew away.
Where'd you put the passport?
I threw it on the ground.
But where?
On the street.
Oh.
I just threw it on the ground, and I said, "This isn't mine." And I assume that means I'm no longer.
It's illegal. It's a declaration of a.
In a court of law, that would hold up.
Right. So I said, I don't even remember even having a passport.
That'll work.
In the first place.
Most things in court hold up. Rule of thumb, most things hold up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're saying if I were in court and someone were suing me in an American court system, and I said I'm not even American, I could say I don't even remember being an American. I've never been to America before.
Again, all you have to do is really plead ignorance.
You could say, "What's a citizen? What's a passport?" And you're home free. That holds up.
Well, Mr. Judge, what's a passport?
Mr. Judge, I don't know what you're talking. I have no idea.
Well, I can't
Where
see.
am I?
Where am I? I can't even see my peripheral.
What the judge will tend to say in that case, this boy does not know the moral, regulations or standards that we do. Kid can do what he wants.
I'd like to see a judge. I feel like any judge would say that. I feel like Judge Judy would definitely say that.
The point is, you go to court. Let's say whatever you want. What do you want to sue for?
I want to sue for Lake Erie. Let's say I want the lake.
What about it?
I want it.
All right. You sue for Lake Erie. You say to the judge, "Listen, I want the lake." He says, "It's." He says, "Look, that's public property," or what you said, Lake Michigan.
I go for Lake Michigan too.
Erie. I think Michigan owns both, but he could claim, "Listen, Michigan owns both." He'd say, "I didn't know that." He says, "Oh shit, that's yours."
I think that's a very good sign that this person knows what they're doing.
It's also another thing from the 70s, 80s, 90s. Many people in murder cases would plead insanity, and that worked very often. And so it's sort of the cousin of pleading insanity is pleading ignorance. Take a 4-year-old, for example. 4-year-old can do anything he or she wants. Anything.
There is a documentary called The 4-Year-Old Billionaire that's out right now, and I'm very interested to see it.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, that 4-year-old could get away with anything that 4-year-old wants. And that's because the 4-year-old does not have the cognitive development of morality to decipher from right or wrong. And so you have to take that presence, you have to take that mindset of a 4-year-old when you enter the court.
So you're saying literally acting like a 4-year-old.
Or just saying you're a 4-year-old. Just going into the court and saying you're 4. I mean, these 4-year-olds nowadays, with the hormones we're putting in food, they look like grown adults.
I've seen it work.
It's interesting because, you can plead insanity, plead ignorance. You can plead the 5th. I've even heard people plead the 6th.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole different level. When somebody pleads the 6th, then I say, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have a lawyer yourself, or do you represent yourself?
I represent myself. I went to a I was a theater studies major.
Were you?
Yeah.
I didn't remember you saying that.
Yeah.
So did you pass the bar?
So the what?
There he is. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Now that is that's a defense right there. This man hasn't even passed the bar. What's the bar? And then you're home free at that point.
Do you have another question? I have a question about the book. 'Cause I do feel as now I want to read the book.
It's a good
I'm going to go against my instincts and start reading. What's your favorite chapter in the book?
3.
Chapter 3?
3, yeah.
What's that one title?
Chapter 3 is called 20s, as in the bill. $20 bills. 20s is what I call the chapter.
Are all the chapters
No, a lot
currency?
of one's named after my mother, and then the rest is about lawsuits.
Wow.
I want to throw this out to anybody who wants to answer. What is your favorite kind of money? What's your favorite money? What's money?
Right.
I sort of like it when it's stacked up really high.
I like coins.
I don't like the jangle noise they make.
It takes up space as well. Yeah. For me, it's TGI Fridays gift cards.
You're a man of meals, is what you're a man.
It's fuel. It's brain fuel.
Don't call it meals, call it brain fuel.
I like that because you added brain in there.
I'm an author, and a theater studies major.
The theater study.
He said it multiple times.
Yeah.
Probably about 3.
I don't remember looking at him, so I don't think it ever happened.
Oh. Well, that would hold up in court for sure. Well, I think this has been a great discussion on the legal system.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add, Kevin McClellin?
I am coming out with a second book. Has nothing to do with this. It's a comic book. Superhero named Flyboy. Part fly, part boy.
Well, I don't know anything about that.
I don't know anything about comic books.
I'm just getting into it, but
I think that's a millennial thing.
Well, you asked me what else do I have to say, and I regret saying it. It didn't come out great, but
you got to work on your pitch.
I don't know why you asked me that.
All right. Well, I mean, this was a great discussion up until that, but
Kevin, I don't appreciate you trying to sell your scams on our podcast. Our podcast is about giving out information to growing businesses and young entrepreneurs, and now it seems like you're trying to sell something to us.
Yeah, I think it was a disgusting display that we just witnessed.
That I promoted my comic book?
Yeah. Bridge didn't ask you to promote anything.
What?
Bridge just asked
you.
It
was a question that was like open-ended.
What? It wasn't that open.
How would you have liked me to respond to that question?
I thought you were going to bring up something about money or lawsuits. Instead, you start talking about this fly child or something, and it's
then specify the question. Then ask me, do you have anything money related that you'd like to close the episode?
Now you're getting belligerent, and I think you're drunk. In my mind, you're drunk, and
I think to everyone here, it was completely implied.
And it was inappropriate, and it was completely.
I really regret coming here tonight.
The same goes for us.
Yeah, I liked you up until the very, very end of this conversation. I was on board.
This is a disaster.
I'd rather you not release this.
Well, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thank you for having me on.